Yeah, are they not here still? I started the broadcast, so Matt, are you seeing? You're on Intermountain Guest, or can you? I have a feeling it's trying to start. What I need to make sure of is that when I make this go full screen, you see it. We had a huge delay when we did it on Tuesday. Yeah. Oh, why am I hearing second? Oh, you're not muted. Hearing echo. Oh, there's the problem. Got it. My sound was on. So are you seeing anything yet? You got this up? Yeah, very well.
All right. Okay, well, thank you all for coming out. Sorry to interrupt 35 conversations at the same time. So thank you for coming out to the Utah Hadoop Users Group and the Big Data Utah group. We're sponsored by several different individuals. You know, Ampion, we've got Utah Geek Events. We also have MapR, many other companies. Those sponsors are listed on our website. Please go there, see what they're up to, see how you can use them potentially for your business to help you grow, right? The Utah Hadoop Users Group, many of you are new here to us. In fact, could I get a quick raise of hands of everybody that's new? This is their first time tonight? It's huge. Carlos, you're lying. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out. One thing that we need to do is make sure that we're all consistent about attending, right? And getting as much value from it as we can. So for us as a group, we are trying to do everything we can to make Utah the central place for big data. We want people around the world, when they talk about big data or anything related to it, to bring up Utah. That's a huge goal, right? Rome was not created in a day, nor was it created by one person or 5 people or 10 people, right? We as a community, all of the citizens of Utah, people that are outside of Utah, all need to work together to help create this ecosystem that we're going to need, this community that we're going to need to be able to become that big data hub, right? So we've done a few things to try and help it happen from kind of an organizational standpoint. We had the Big Mountain Data Conference last fall down at Adobe. We had 330 people come out. We had another Big Mountain Data Conference in the spring at Goldman Sachs and had a few hundred people come out to that as well. We had a competition this spring where we provided some data sets from a couple of companies here locally, Health Equity and Skullcandy. And we had those, had people from the community go out and compete and show what was possible in big data. Really cool event, right? But so I don't know how many people saw what happened, but we were actually able to predict things about healthcare data sets, to be able to prove, hey, if you have this particular procedure, you're going to have these ones following. And you're going to want to backtrack that and actually start saying, hey, maybe I should have this much money saved in my account. right? So anyway, cool. Skull Candy, we were able to provide some really cool information about what people were saying about Skull Candy, about their competitors. There was an app created. There was a lot of information that Skull Candy is now implementing to help them determine where they're going to market, who they're going to market to, how they can approach things with them. Very cool stuff. But how many people in this room competed? I can see a couple, but not all of us. How many people in this room were influenced? How many people actually gained a good benefit from that? And how many people did it change their careers? Very few. So now this summer, we want to take on air quality here in Utah. Is everybody here breathing air? It affects all of us, right? It affects our health. It affects tourism in the state. It affects the ways that we do business. It affects everything, right? And in the meantime, we're affecting it. But we may not be able to see exactly how we're influencing it. There's a lot of companies, there's organizations, there's different people that are gathering as much data as they can to understand this big problem. But we're going to work together as a community for 2 to 3 months, about 10 weeks, to tackle air quality. It's all going to be collaborative for the first 2 to 3 months. We're going to work together to try to understand what are all of these components, what do they mean, how do they influence us, how do they interplay with one another, what are the correlations, right? And then at the end of that time period, we're going to break off into teams and compete and show how these technologies are and what they can do to revolutionize our understanding of air quality. We have the state of Utah, we have many other organizations, and when I say the state, I mean all of their departments are all working to gather data for us. We have other organizations around the state that are gathering as much data as they can. We, though, also need to go out and find other data, whether it's public data sets, maybe it's data sets with our particular companies, et cetera, and work together to get that data so that it's machine ready and predictive ready, right? So it should be a really, really cool competition. We're also, again, the purpose of this is to build the community. So we're going to have training meetings all summer long. I mentioned that it will go about 10 weeks or so. During those 10 weeks, we're going to have training meetings at the Leonardo every Friday at lunch, and we're going to cover all of these things. How do you get started? Where do you find the data? How do you scrape the data? How do you gather the data? How do you get it predictive ready? How do you scrub it, right? We're also going to set that up on Jira boards so that you can go in later and say, look, I watched a 20 to 30 minute demo about how to find data, and I understood the first 2 minutes. Can somebody go back and please explain MapReduce for me? Can somebody go back and explain this other term that somebody brought up? How does that work? Or can somebody else provide another way to do this? Are there other tools? Are there other options? But I need all of you as community members to help us build that and make it robust training. If we have 10 people that provide demos and they're 20 to 30 minutes long, we're not going to have that much information. It's not going to be that valuable. Also, if we don't have questions asked, if we don't know what people aren't understanding, it's going to be difficult to speak to all of the audiences that are possible, right? So come out and help us create that training so that it's incredibly valuable, right? Is anybody from MapR here tonight, by the way? They're meant to speak. You're here. Are you Sangju? Okay. Well, thank you very much for, for coming out today. So we're going to have you present here in a minute. Let me kind of wrap up, and then Pat, did you want to take a minute as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So we are, very, very happy to have MapR out here tonight and Senwook. He's going to present on Apache Spark. Really, really cool technology. I'll let you introduce yourself and who you are and what you're doing and everything. But in the meantime, check out the data on the competition, all the details. Pat will go into a couple of little steps on it and different things that we need as a community to work together on. But be involved. I'm not asking anybody. In fact, I don't want you to spend 40 hours on this. But go in and try to provide as much time as you can. And if each one of us are doing something, we'll come up with something really cool, really robust. Do you guys have questions before I pass it on to Pat? Okay.
Guess not.
Hopefully that means it was solid information.
You got it all perfectly at one time.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk for a brief second, and then we're actually going to take kind of a break so we can get our next presenter set up as well. Let me make sure this is still sharing. We are broadcasting and recording these so that you have them later, okay? So we're doing our best to use Google Hangouts on air. There are some issues with it, so we're going to work through them as quickly as possible. But all I'm really going to talk about is basically Friday. Friday at the Leonardo, I'm going to really go through this step by step, where to get information, how to get information, where to find it, where to sign up, all of those wonderful things to really kick off the competition. We're going to be not only teaching you how to get some of this data and work with this data, but we're also going to provide that data in the future to anyone else. It's all going to be open source. It's going to be open source technologies to pull it. So it's really the place to learn over the next 10 to 11 weeks as we do this and as we go through this competition. And as Nick mentioned, it's very much a cooperation for the very first 3 months, two and a half, 3 months. Then it goes into the competition phase. So it's all about working together in the community to do these things. It's not about competing until then. All right, what are some of the key points I want to mention really quick? So the biggest thing you can do to get started right now, Matt, remind me again, what is our website address? I keep forgetting it over and over and over again. BigDataUtah.org. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see it's a very simple website, but it has a subscribe to newsletter. Please start subscribing to that newsletter. That newsletter is not going to send you emails every day or anything like that. It's simply going to tell you exactly when every one of these things are going on. Because we're many different groups, we are the SQL Server Users group, the uhug group, lots of different groups, geek events, all of these things. We want one place that you're saying you're getting, here's the events coming up. So we're going to send it to you through that, at least that newsletter. You'll see it on uhug sites, you'll see it on calendars, you'll see it all sorts of places. But we want to make sure everybody goes to that site for sure. Yes, Matt?
Sorry, there's a problem. The naked domain, BigDataUtah.org, goes to the Jira site right now.
Okay.
You should put the www in front.
That's why I keep having issues. www.bigdatautah.org. Okay? We will be putting that, you'll see that on the uhug site, where you got information about this, but please go to that site, sign up for the newsletter. It's a simple MailChimp newsletter. Again, it's not going to anyone else. It's just going to us so we can give you information about the competition. And that's the key thing to start with right now. Everything else I'll touch on Friday. Friday and all of the Leonardo things will be broadcast. So you don't necessarily have to be in person, but you're going to get the most benefit by being in person. Okay? It's much better to be social and things like this. But we will broadcast them, we will record them so that you can see them at a later time. We know that there's critical issues out there in your production systems that you will have to miss some of these meetings. And so we'll record those and broadcast those later. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and switch over. Get the presenters up here so you can get started. Everybody, why don't you take a break, grab another piece of pizza, talk to the person next to you. Again, this is all about being social. If you don't know them, this is the perfect time to turn to them and say, how are you, or what are you working on? If you do know them, tell them what you've been doing lately, okay? While we switch over everybody.
By the way, everybody was willing to raise their hands on whether or not you were new.
Yeah.
Can you all raise your hands on whether or not you want to be involved in the competition?
And the competition will have millions of dollars in prizes too, right, Nick?
Not for me.
Yeah, we're not guaranteed $1 million prizes, but we do have a lot of commitment from the state and a lot of commitment from people. It's going to be a really cool thing. So, okay, come on up.
Sorry to slide.
Okay.
Well, we were a little lost.
If possible,
Other end
I
of
would love to
the
have you go to Google Hangout so I can broadcast from
Trying
your
to look
box.
up phone numbers.